Hello everyone, welcome to SIUK India webinar. Thank you for joining us today. We are now live with Durham University. Today we have Professor Derek and Savi, the country representative, with us who will let us know more about this special webinar session. Please feel free to post all the questions on the chat box on the right. We will answer all the questions after the presentation during the Q&A session. So let's start. Over to you, Professor Derek.
Thank you very much, Deepika, and thank you to everybody who's here with us today. It's great to be here. I'm actually someone with a deep love of India. I'm an archaeologist who's done quite a bit of work in Maharashtra and Goa and Kerala, and I haven't been to India for a long time, and I really miss India when I haven't been there. So I'll mention a little bit of that later. But my main purpose today is to give you some idea about the master's courses that we offer here in the Department of Archaeology at Durham University, and to explain to you why we think they're good courses and the potential that what they contain, the sort of career opportunities that they provide you with, and some of the reasons why archaeology heritage is a good career choice at the present time. So you may well know of Durham University, the Department of Archaeology. The university itself is one of the top ranked universities in the UK. It's a UK Russell Group, that's a group of research intensive universities in the UK, the top 14 universities in the UK. It's a collegiate university. That means when you come here, you don't just join the university, but you join one of 17 colleges that make up the university. The university is currently ranked in the top 6 in the UK in the complete university guide for this year, and in the top 100, actually 82nd at the moment, worldwide by QS. So it's a top-ranked international university, but it's also manages to be a small and friendly and welcoming university. I think most people would agree with that, and it's a good place to study. You can see from the Google image here, I think a little bit, again, it's a very small town, quiet and peaceful with a nice academic community. The collegiate aspect of the university does make it friendly and very supportive, so that every student is a part of a college of 300-400 people and has a good personal relationship and can establish friendships very quickly. But it's also very mixed and international. 30% of our students are international, representing 150 different countries. So we're really, for a small town, and very cosmopolitan. And we're very proud of that diverse social community, and we're very welcoming to students from all over the world. We're very used to being international. Here's the just recently released rankings, university rankings. This is not departmental rankings, university rankings, giving you a sense of where we are. Why Durham Archaeology in particular? Well, the department itself is highly ranked, and I'll say a bit more about that in a second. We have 32 academic and research staff in the department, all of them exceptional teachers and leaders in their field academically around the world, with a long experience in teaching. We have therefore a very wide breadth of expertise, which covers almost the entire world, but certainly covers Asia, South Asia, India in particular. The international reputation of the university and the department are key, and that, of course, if you're going to invest the year and the fees in master's study, the reputation of the degree that you gain is obviously really important to the future development of your career. We have excellent resources and facilities and access to numerous research and fieldwork projects going on around the world, but combining that, as I said, in the department as well, with a friendly and informal atmosphere. You'll join an academic community of about, on average, 90 or so MA and MSc students, around 60 PhD students, 20 postdoctoral researchers, and as I mentioned, 32 academic staff. We're the home to a commercial unit, an archaeological commercial unit. That's not something that's very widely understood in India, but it's important in giving us links to the commercial world of heritage. And also we are very strong academically. For example, we currently edit the journal Antiquity, which is a widely respected international journal. In terms of the department itself, the QS rankings have just been released, I think two days ago, and Durham is ranked 8th in the world, as you can see on the left there, below. Last year we were 4th, so we're up and down in the top 10, really, that mix in the top 10. So that gives you a sense of our international reputation in the department, and within the UK, we're ranked 3rd currently by the Complete University Guide. So you're becoming to what I think we can fairly say is a top-ranked international university with a very strong reputation. That will carry with your degree. As I've mentioned a little bit about the facilities, and this depends a bit on which program you're thinking of studying, but we have laboratories that cover DNA, isotope, human osteoarchaeology, thermoluminescence, environmental, etc. A wide range of equipment that's available to students for their use in their studies, an in-house commercial unit, which I've already mentioned, and a library, a massive library of over 100,000 volumes, which is, of course, you're welcome to use, and very good study rooms and computer rooms, etc., the normal that you'd expect in a top university for the student facilities. We have a great research culture in the department. As I said, we're very welcoming, but there's a lot going on that you can choose to join in on top of your studies. Weekly departmental seminars are run by current staff, by external speakers from around the world. We have a number of research groups that allows students with particular interests to meet together with staff and PhD students weekly or monthly to discuss topics of their particular interest. And there are also university centers that every student is welcome to join. For example, the Center for Visual Art, the Center for the Study of Ancient Mediterranean and the Near East, Institute of Advanced Studies, and so forth. I've mentioned fieldwork opportunities. I would use the whole of my time slot up if I were to list them all to you, but we have a lot of fieldwork going on around the world at the moment. For example, as you can see here in Scotland and the North Atlantic, in Spain, in France, in Egypt, and in Nepal. Robin Conningham is actually, I think, in Nepal right now, digging at Lumbini, the birthplace of the Buddha. So there are many more, and students are encouraged to get involved with those projects. So it's an excellent opportunity to gain fieldwork experience and to travel. But we also, in the department, actually relatively unusually, we have a very strong expertise in South Asian archaeology or Indian archaeology. Some of the publications that made up by Professor Robin Conningham, who is the UNESCO Professor of Archaeology at the moment here and Heritage, myself, and Dr. Mark Manuel. And you can see some of the publications that have come out in the last 2 or 3 years there, including memoirs of the Archaeological Survey of India and so forth. So I think we're up there in the UK, certainly in Europe, with our knowledge of South Asia. And that's, of course, going to be important to you. We run 7 MSc programs, MA and MSc programs presently. They're listed here. I'm going to go through them in a second in a bit more detail, just to give you an idea of what we offer. The generic MA in archaeology. Then we've got 3 what we call heritage programs, which is museum and artifact studies, conservation of archaeological and museum objects, and international cultural heritage management. And then we have 3 MScs, human bioarchaeology and paleopathology, MSc Bioarchaeology, and we have an MSc, a new, just about to start, MSc Forensic Archaeology and Anthropology. I will say a little bit more about each of those programs in a second. But before we go any further, I wanted to talk a little bit about employability, because clearly, if one is going to invest a year of one's life and the fees and so forth, then what is it going to give you? Well, we have a good record in employability, and I think this is one of the reasons why I was keen today to speak to students from South Asia and from India, because it's a growth area, heritage and archaeology around the world, and we're seeing increased demand actually for employment. For example, we have 2 Indian students on the MA and MSc program since 2013, and both are now employed. One in museums, one's in the UK and one's employed in India. But typically around 75% of our MA graduates go on to work in museums or heritage and archaeology, including studying for PhDs or a related area, and go on to build careers in those areas. And about 25% of our graduates go on to other professions, such as typically teaching, marketing, and business. There's a list here of some of the destinations over the last few years of jobs that our graduates have followed, to give you an idea of the sorts of jobs that people go off to. I should also say, though, that the heritage sector around the world is a good growth area at the moment. Some people might think that it's a rather risky area. It might be better employed in computer science or business. But actually, these figures here from the Centre for Economics and Business Research in the UK show on the left there that heritage is actually a bigger sector in the UK now than security or defence, aerospace, and arts and culture. So it's growing, and it's increasingly important around the world. And employment growth at 24% before the pandemic, we'll expect that to pick up again once we recover, is an indication, I think, of how significant heritage is. Tourism and heritage are as sectors to the global economy. And I think that's applicable entirely to South Asia and to India generally. You can see here as well a UNESCO report that also states how significant the UK heritage sector is to providing expertise and knowledge to the global sector. UNESCO also mentions now that tourism and heritage generally earning up to $1 billion or more from international tourism. That's almost doubled since the late 1990s. It's a key player in international commerce, and it's outpacing global economic growth generally. This is up until 2019. So as I say, we're assuming that's going to pick up again. And cultural tourism, as defined by the UNWTO as a tourism center or on cultural attractions and products, is one of the fastest growing segments of the tourism industry, accounting for an estimated 40% of all tourism worldwide. So if you're thinking of going into the heritage sector, archaeology and the heritage sector, you're choosing a good sector, a good growth sector where there's good, strong possibilities for future employment around the world. And I think that South Asia, this map of UNESCO World Heritage Sites here, shows that how still underrepresented South Asia and India especially is, in that despite a number of really important UNESCO World Heritage Sites, there's a lot more that India has to offer globally. And I think that's something else that needs to be borne in mind. Let's get on to the hard and nitty gritty now. That it's an expensive thing to come to the UK to study. There's no doubt about that. These are the fees for our 7 programs. And you can see that the fees are around on average, about £22,000 a year. That's the tuition fees. On top of that, of course, you've got living expenses and travel. That equals about 2.2 crore rupees for tuition fees, okay, which is a shockingly, I'm no India, and I know it's a shockingly high amount. I think, though, we need to temper that with a few points. First of all, there are some scholarships. They're very competitive. They're not easy to get, but we have the Commonwealth Scholarship, which I think Savi might be mentioning a little bit earlier. There's achieving scholarships, which are available as well. And Durham University does offer a number of international scholarships that are valued at around about £5,000 a year towards tuition fees. So that's something of a help, though extremely competitive. I think also something that needs to be borne in mind for students from India is that the UK government has just, once again, last summer, changed the regulations, and it's now possible for students who come to study for a master's program here to go on to work in the UK for up to 2 years after graduation. And of course, as you probably are aware, but there's a massive demand for employment across all sectors at the moment, across the European, the Western, I think across the world, actually, there's a massive demand for employment. So skilled labor is really in demand. So relatively simple to find jobs at the moment. You can stay and work in the UK at any skill level for up to 2 years. And the average salary, according to the Office for National Statistics last year, the average salary in the UK was £38,000 a year. So you would have a pretty good opportunity to, after your MA, to stay in the UK, to work for 2 years, to gain experience working in an overseas environment, and also to pay back some of the costs of your study. And I think that actually presents a really good opportunity. There's obviously the opportunity as well that your employment would become permanent and that you'd be able to stay in the UK if you wanted to, but you certainly would be able to go back to India with experience working in an overseas market, which is always valuable and broadening. And there are other scholarships here, which are listed on our university website. I'll post that into the chat at the end so that you can follow these links yourselves. If you're a Durham alumni, if you've already completed an undergraduate degree with us and you're thinking of going on to postgraduate, then we do offer a 15% discount on tuition fees for any Durham alumna. So that's worth mentioning. Let's say a little bit about entry requirements for Indian students. Normally, for entry to our master's programs, we require 60 to 70%. The exact percentage depends actually on the undergraduate university that you graduated from. That's equivalent to a UK 2-1 degree or a US GPA of about 3.3. Normally in a related subject, but that's not required actually in most cases. We would also require, if you're not a native English speaker, we'd require an IELTS 7 with no element below 6.5 or equivalent. So you need to think of that. And obviously we would need, normally at the moment, it's one good reference letter from a previous tutor or a previous employer. That's effectively what we require from you. A little bit about this, before I go into to say a little bit in detail about these specific programs, about the structure on MA, MSc and its workload. The main difference between undergraduate or BA, BSc and MA, MSc study is that at MA, MSc level, you're expected really to know your field systematically and to be completely really on top of techniques and theories and the relevant literature. So it does require a step up in application, and in the breadth and depth of your knowledge. Each program is made up of 180 credits a year, and I'll say a little bit in a minute about how that's divided into modules. In each program, you have a selection of modules that you can choose, so some degree of choice, core modules that you are required to take, and elective modules that you can choose from for most of the programs. And most programs require a 60 to 90 credit dissertation or research paper that finishes off your year of study, or in some cases 2 years of study. The workload it varies quite significantly by program. Generally, the lab-based, the laboratory-based programs have the heaviest workload because there's a requirement to be in the lab and processing data and learning techniques. But all of the programs leave you a certain amount of flexibility to follow up work and read broadly in the library. It is, though, some students do ask us. Of course, it is possible during the year to take vacations at Christmas and at Easter, and there is time to take time off. Some students worry that they're going to be so overworked. Study does, though, continue from October. Most courses start around the early October and they finish early September when the dissertation or the research paper is submitted. That's the general outline. As I mentioned, there are 7 programs in the department, and I'll go through them very quickly now and say a few words. I don't want to bore you, but I know there are students out there who will be interested in the way that the programs are structured. A lot of information is provided on our website, but I'll rush through without taking too much time. The MA in Archaeology is a generic archaeology program. The structure really, it's designed to prepare you for a wide range of careers in the fields of archaeology and cultural heritage management, the academic world, cultural research and journalism, as well as related careers with a cultural or heritage focus. It also provides research training for further academic study, and quite a few of the students who take this program do go on to study PhDs. We have 4 areas of specialization in this program, which is otherwise quite generic. Prehistoric, which is mainly focused on Europe, though not entirely. Classical and Roman, which is again largely focused on the Mediterranean region and Europe. And then we have a specialization in Egypt, the Near East and Asia, which is very broad, but we do have specializations, as I've already mentioned, in South Asia, in China, and in Western Asia, in the what's sometimes called the Middle East, and Egypt. So we'd have a very broad expertise across the board there. And there's a specialization in medieval and post-medieval studies, which is increasingly an area of study and interest in India, as I know. The structure, we run with 3 terms. The first term runs October through mid-December, and you'll take one core module, which is a research training module. And then there'll be a series of options of research topics that you can choose from, depending on your interests. And some of those are listed, not all of them are listed at the bottom there to give you an idea of the sorts of topics that will be available to you. You are also allowed to take a module in another department or from another program if you're particularly interested. So there's some flexibility in the choice there. At term 2, you take a PRSS, a practical research and study skills, which is broken into 2 sections, which gives you a chance to learn hands-on skills such as GIS or geophysics or 3D imaging. And then from about the Easter vacation, where we are now in the UK, that's the second term has ended, you'll be focusing entirely on your dissertation research, and you'll be working with one chosen supervisor, one academic member of staff, normally one, sometimes 2, to focus on a particular research area, and so that by September, you'll have written a 20,000 word research study under the supervision of that person, which will make up about half of the marks for your degree and 90 credits. And that really is the culmination of the MA. And it's something that most students really enjoy. Some students produce publishable work during the course of that study. Moving on to the MA in Museums and Artifact Studies, which is guided by Robin Skeets at the moment, Professor Robin Skeets, but a number of staff teaching on it, supporting it. There are 2 routes: museums and galleries, which focuses largely on that side of the thing, and artifact studies, which focuses more on the artifacts and collections side of the discipline. The purpose of this program really is designed explicitly, actually, for people who wish to work in and around museums and the heritage sector. So it's very much training you for a particular career. It offers extensive training in the principles and practice of museums and a recognized qualification. It's regularly updated to ensure that it's relevant to the requirements of the professional sector. And as I've already mentioned, up to about 2019, so before the pandemic hit and changed everything, around 75% of the graduates over the previous 5 years were employed in the sector. So it's a very successful program. The structure, I won't go into, let's find out what's happened to this slide. Something funny happened to it, but there are a series of modules. They're listed there, and you have some choice, and you have some core modules that you're required to take. If there are questions at the end about specifics, I can come back to that. As I mentioned, it's taught primarily by 5 members of university staff with many years of experience in the sector. It's also taught by staff from Durham University Museums and Heritage, because we do have our own university museums in the town, and we also have a UNESCO World Heritage Site around the cathedral. So we are able to draw on members of staff with live experience in the sector who are teaching on the program, which really keep it up to date. That's also true in the next program I mentioned. So that's really, but we also bring in guest lecturers from around the UK and around the world who contribute to the program. There are typically around 20 to 30 students per year, and from around the world on this. Most successful applicants do already have some research experience, of at least volunteer experience working in museums, and it's recommended that you have that if you want to develop a future career, but it's not a requirement. And then we help to develop your experience and skills and CVs. It's quite an intensive course, combining quite a variety of teaching modes, lectures and seminars, practicals and online, with a wide range of assessments, different types of assessment. It can be taken part-time over 2 years, though that's difficult depending on your visa status. Yes, and I mentioned already the very successful career trajectory that most students take up after taking this degree. Moving on to the conservation of archaeological and museum objects. This is a very specialist degree. I'm not sure if there are many out there interested, and I'm happy to answer questions, but it's effectively, it's a 2-year master's program. You do require a good degree of chemistry and ideally experience working with objects. There are 2 routes, a dissertation route and a professional practice route. The purpose really is to train students to be conservators of archaeological and museum objects. Students learn how to research, analyze, clean, preserve, and care for a wide range of artifacts, and they learn how to make decisions to help safeguard material for the future. The course is really intended for those who wish to become practicing artifact conservators, or who want to work in the fields of artifact research and preventative conservation. Graduates of the course now work in a wide variety of museums, as well as large heritage organizations in the UK and around the world. So we take, I think, 12 students a year. It's a very restricted program, and a very specialist program, a very successful program. There's the structure. I won't say too much about this now, and I'll answer questions at the end if people have specific questions that they want to ask about the structure of that program. Then MA in International Cultural and Heritage Management is the last of the 3 programs that make up our so-called heritage sector. And this program aims to explore issues involved in global cultural heritage management as a foundation for both professional and academic future paths. So it examines tangible and intangible cultural heritage principles, practices, and policies with an international, national, and local focus. Why here in Durham? As I've already mentioned, the photograph you're looking at there on the right, which is the center of Durham, Durham town, is a UNESCO World Heritage Site. I think we must be one of the few universities in the world that's actually based in a UNESCO World Heritage Site. So we do have that. And all of the experience that brings, that students can actually go out and engage with as part of their study. So they can go out and do visitor questionnaires, they can look at and examine and talk to staff about the problems that are faced by being an international heritage site such as that. And it's an extremely valuable resource for us. The main purpose really is to introduce you to the issues involved in global cultural heritage management, a massive growth area at the moment, as a foundation for both professional and academic paths. And we take both of those into consideration. As I've mentioned, we benefit enormously from the presence of the UNESCO World Heritage Site here. And we have actually, with Professor Robin Conningham, who also works in South Asia, we have the first ever UNESCO chair in archaeological ethics and practice and cultural heritage here in the department, who teaches on this program. And yeah, we have strong links to the World Heritage Site and other regional, national, and international sites around the world, many of whom actually offer placement opportunities to the students on this program. So that's the structure. I'm not going to go into the details of the modules. I'll leave that, I think, until questions at the end, in case if anybody has particular questions about that. But they're clearly set out actually on our website. Ditto. The MSc in Bio Archaeology is our smallest program. It's our first of the MSc programs that we offer, and it's aimed at the scientific study of the whole biosphere for the understanding of the human past, not just human remains, but all biological materials and environmental contexts. This is a big growth area in scientific archaeology, an understanding of the environment, human environment, and how that has changed in relation to human activity. So it's a really big area, though it's highly specialized and scientific. The three paths are it: human, biomolecular, and environmental. And a few words about that now. That's some of the opportunities for study, some of the modules there listed, some of the paths: paleopathology, ancient DNA, isotopic analysis, zooarchaeology, all of those, geoarchaeology, all of those that give an insight into the human past and the relationship between humans and the environment. And the topics that could be looked at are foodways, the origins of agriculture, human dispersals, evolutionary history of disease, environmental change and chronologies, human-animal environment relations, and so forth. So a lot on offer there. Purpose-built labs, we have excellent facilities for this program, and extensive collections, reference collections that students require for their study. That's a breakdown of the structure of the program. And as I said already, I won't go into detail of this now. I'll answer questions on that if there are any at the end. We also have an MSc in human bioarchaeology and paleopathology, which focuses on the human body. The archaeology really of the human body, transforming our understanding of the human past through skeletal analysis. It's taught by a world leader in her field, Professor Becky Gowland. Its purpose really is through lectures, seminars, and laboratory-based MSc. It equips you with the theoretical and practical skills and knowledge to study and interpret data collected from human remains. Emphasis on osteoprofiling. That means really an examination of the skeletal remains of bodies, and in order to understand the health and disease, the nutrition, life expectancy, linking biological evidence with cultural evidence. And that's a really important approach we follow. It's very hands-on, this program. It's a practical course, and students gain a lot of experience with human skeletal material from a variety of time periods. It's also training for a career in further academic research and a PhD. That's the structure of the program, the modules that make up the program, giving you some idea of the choice that's available. As I've said already, I won't say more about this now, and I'll answer questions at the end. We're starting a new program in the MSc in Forensic Archaeology and Anthropology. This is drawn out by the fact that increasingly, and we've seen some of the horrors in Ukraine recently, and the human rights abuses, and the need actually for scientists with skills in archaeology and osteoprofiling and forensics who can address issues such as this, where there are allegations of mass murders or even individual murders, actually. And the staff on this program work closely with the police and work closely with international bodies, justice bodies. So it's designed specifically for a career in that particular area. It'll equip you for further research in forensic archaeology and anthropology, and also to find employment with a forensic related profession. And they're increasingly, it's a growth area, as I've mentioned. It aims to develop the theoretical and practical expertise to analyze and interpret human remains within a forensic context, and again a thorough knowledge of human skeletal anatomy. So it overlaps a little bit with the previous MSc I just described. You'll receive intensive training in techniques on osteoprofiling, forensic archaeology and anthropology, taphonomy, and learning to integrate biomolecular evidence. Access to large skeletal collections that we hold in the department, and gain also knowledge of the operational facilities and professional practice in dealing with death investigations, including international mass disasters. So it's very focused. You can see, I think, there to a particular career, and we have a great expertise. That's the structure of that program, the modules that make up the program through terms. And again, I'll leave you to ask questions about that if you have questions about it. Right, well, that brings me pretty much on time to the end of my presentation. These what I'm going to do here, if you give me a second, I'll just cut. I'm going to cut, and I'm going to just cut and paste these into the chat, which is I should have probably copied before I started, but forgive me a moment. I'm going to paste that information into the chat to everybody so that you've got, in fact, the email addresses of all of the program directors of the programs I've just described, so that if you have any questions or inquiries, you're welcome. In fact, all of the members of staff who teach here in the department are very friendly and welcome inquiries from students from anywhere in the world. So you'd be absolutely happy, encouraged to send an individual email with questions that you might have about the programs on offer, the content, the likely career outcomes, and the sorts of questions that you might have when you're considering coming to the UK to study for a master's program. So you're welcome to contact. At the bottom there is the link to the department website where our programs are set out. The details of our programs are set out, including actually the module structures, which I've glanced over quickly in the presentation. So then just to finish with a picture of an aerial image of Durham, giving you an idea. You might wonder where the university is down here on the left-hand side. That's the main campus. And at the bottom left, the more modern-looking buildings. The less modern-looking medieval structure is there on the island. Well, it's not an island; it's the peninsula in the middle, surrounded by the River Wear. And I think that gives you a sense of the sort of environment you'll be coming to study in. Very peaceful, very clean, very calm, and very welcoming. But also, we do have within reach Newcastle, which is a very big city, 15 minutes on the train. And we're about 3 hours from London, an hour and 3/4 from Edinburgh. So coming to study in Durham will also give you the opportunity to explore the UK and to get to know the culture here, and probably the food you won't enjoy very much. Many English people prefer Indian food, actually. But otherwise, you'd be very welcome to come and study with us here in Durham and to find out more about what we do in the UK and how we operate. That's the end. So Savi, should I hand over to you now?
Yes, Derek, thank you so very much. That was extremely insightful. And I'm sure not just the students, but I've also benefited from your session today. So thank you very much once again. Deepika, I'll just also quickly pull up my presentation.
Sure.
Please let me know if you're able to see it.
Yes.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Derek. So good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for joining in once again. My name is Savi Agarwal, and I'm the country advisor for Durham University, looking after India and South Asia region. So even though Professor Derek has already covered quite a bit about Durham, I'm just going to quickly give you a brief about the university. So we're a world top 100 university. Currently, we're ranked 82nd in the world. As a university, we normally like to, talk about how the kind of work that we do, the kind of university we are, and to put that together in just one sentence. So we normally say it across as a globally outstanding center of teaching and research excellence. It's a collegiate community of extraordinary people in a unique and historic setting. Durham is a university which is like none other. This Professor Derek has already shared an aerial view, so I'm just sharing one which is, in which you can also see the castle and cathedral. So it's a beautiful, beautiful city. It's a small, compact city. It has a population of approximately 43,000 people, of which 20,000 are approximately students. So it's a proper student experience that you get. Derek has already covered about the location, but just to reiterate, so we're located in the northeastern part of England. Durham is the World Heritage City, and the University Castle and Cathedral are UNESCO World Heritage Sites. If you're looking for that quintessential British experience, with cobbled pebble streets and beautiful historical architecture, then Durham is the place to be. It still has all the amenities that you might require as an international student. We're the third most beautiful historic university in the UK, and we're also the third oldest university in the UK and a member of the prestigious Russell Group of universities. So like I mentioned, we're ranked 82nd in the world currently as per the latest QS rankings, and 5th in the UK as per the Garden Good University Guide, and 6th as per the Complete University Guide. 16 of our 25 academic subjects are actually ranked within the top world 100 subjects. Archaeology being number 4 in the world. With respect to teaching excellence, so as a university, we've received the gold standard in teaching excellence framework. So we consistently try and deliver outstanding teaching, learning, and outcomes for our students. And one of the highest qualities you can find is within Durham University. We have a diverse student community, and we have recently been ranked 26th in the world when it comes to one of the most international universities in the world. We have staff and students coming from 150 different countries, And in terms of inclusivity, we have now 32% of our starting students coming from different countries. So in terms of the 25 academic departments, the 4 major faculties that we have at the university are the Arts and Humanities, the Business, the Social Sciences, and the Engineering and Sciences department. 53% of the research being carried at Durham University has been categorized as internationally excellent or world-leading. With respect to careers and employability, we are now ranked 52nd in the world as per the latest QS rankings in terms of graduate employer reputation. So Durham is one of the most preferred partners for companies where they're looking to hire from. As a university, we do have a central career cell that helps students in terms of how to apply for jobs, prepare CVs, approach employers. We also do organize multiple job fairs and career fairs throughout the year. These are some of the key employers that visit the campus, but of course, there are a lot more companies that visit the campus. Just last year itself, we had approximately 1,500 companies be a part of our virtual career fairs. With respect to the entry criteria, so for undergrad students, we are looking for anywhere between 83 to 90% for the undergrad programs. In case if they have about 80% in their year 12 English, then we do not need an English proficiency test scores. And for most of the archaeology programs also, we'll be looking at somewhere around 85 to 87% in your best of 4 academic subjects. For the postgrad students, we'll be looking at a first division from the Indian institutes. Depending on which institute you've studied from, we'll be looking at an average score of 60 to 70%. IELTS, PTE, or TOEFL are mandatory for postgrad entry. There is no English language waiver for postgrad students. With respect to the application process, so it's quite straightforward. And all undergrad applications have to come in through UCAS, which is the Universities and Colleges Admission Services. And all postgrad applications are directly to be put into the university's application portal. Now, initially, when I mentioned that we're a collegiate university, so what that basically means is that we have 17 distinct colleges on our campus only for the purpose of student accommodation. These colleges are basically for your accommodation, for pastoral care, for your social engagement, for you to interact with other students, for you to be a part of clubs and societies. And your actual studies happen in the faculty buildings. So say, for example, if you come in for archaeology, you wouldn't just be surrounded by students from archaeology background, but you'll also be meeting students from engineering, from social sciences, from business, all these backgrounds. So for your own holistic and personal development, it's definitely more advantageous. Some of these colleges are catered, some are self-catered. So depending on what your preferences are, you can choose and pick between these. We also guarantee first-year accommodation to all our students. And just one fun fact for students who are Harry Potter fans or the Avenger Endgame fan, a few of the scenes of the first 2 Harry Potter movies and the Avengers Endgame have actually been shot at the University Castle and Cathedral. So it's again a very, very iconic location to be at. With respect to scholarships, so like Derek already mentioned, we do have a South Asia specific scholarship of approximately £5,000. It's a guaranteed automatic scholarships for all undergrad and postgrad students applying for any of the programs under the archaeology field. For undergrad students, it's going to be £5,000 per year. So if it's a 3-year program, you're looking at effectively a £15,000 scholarship. And since our master's degrees are 1-year degrees, it's a £5,000 scholarship. There is no separate application that's required for this scholarship. Once you put in an application with us and you get an offer, you'll automatically get the scholarship as well. We do, I think Derek has already covered this, but we do have, we do provide an opportunity for students to do a sandwich year program, wherein they can do the first 2 years with us. And 1 year, they can either choose to do an international study abroad year with one of the partner universities. We have more than 240 plus exchange agreements. Or they can choose to do an international placement year and come back to Durham for their final year. We do have more than 200 clubs and societies. This is something I briefly touched base upon. We're the #1 team sports university in the UK. We have more than 27 student theatre companies, and more than 900 roles go out, for students to apply for. All in all, there's a lot of support available. We believe it's a once in a lifetime opportunity, and we not only focus on your professional development, but we also believe in your personal development. So of course, we definitely do encourage you to follow your passion and interests. A lot of student support services also available at the university, including counseling, tutoring and learning support. There is disability support. There are excellent facilities. We also have a 24/7 library, and there are of course ID services available for students to make good use of. Thank you so much. I'll also put down my details in the chat box for students in case if they have any further questions, they can feel free to reach out to me. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Professor Derek and Savi, for such a knowledgeable presentation. We are now moving towards the Q&A session. The first question, please give more information about scholarship and finance assistance.
Okay. Derek, do you want to cover?
Well, I think I better leave that to you, Savi. I think you certainly know more about it than I do. So I think you covered that pretty well. Let's see if you can cover.
Definitely. So thank you for your question. So we do have a lot of scholarships that are available currently on offer for students. One of the most prominent scholarships is the International Student Scholarship for 2022, which I just spoke about. It's a £5,000 per year tuition fee reduction for all students who apply with us and get an offer from us. The only exception being students from the business school and undergrad law programs and the MA conservation program. But otherwise, it's applicable for all students. It's an automatic scholarship. You do not have to separately apply for the scholarship. Once you apply with us, we'll automatically provide you the scholarship once you get an offer letter. Apart from these, there are a few other scholarships that are also available for students to apply for. So we do have the Postgrad International Scholarship, the Achievement Scholarship, and there are a few more South Asia specific scholarships, but this is the most prominent one. And apart from that, there are the government scholarships as well that students can apply for. So like Commonwealth Shielding Scholarship, these scholarships usually would open a year in advance for applications. So ideally, students looking for 2023 would be able to apply for them by October or November of this year. So I hope that helps answer the question.
Thank you, Savi. The next question. Do you provide placements after the course is completed?
Right.
Some of the programs include a placement. And so, for example, the museums and the conservation programs include a placement. And after the programs have completed, we don't. No, but I've mentioned already that with the new government visa regulations, as a graduate student from a UK university, you do have the right to get employment of any sort in the UK for 2 years. And given the state of the employment market in the UK at the moment, we're finding actually that many students are not even going on to do masters. They're going straight into employment because there's so many good jobs out there at the moment. I think there's a very strong possibility that you'll be able to use your qualifications to get yourself employment. But you obviously, during the course of your program, if you were interested in developing a placement to move on to a placement or voluntary placement, then you could talk to staff in the department, your tutors, and they would certainly help you and put you in contact with institutions or people who might be interested in offering you a placement. So we'd offer you support, but we don't provide a formal placement for you at the end of the graduate program.
Thank you, Derek. The next question. I have my bachelor's in political science. Can I apply for master's in archaeology?
Yeah, we do. A part of what we found over the years and the way we've designed our MA program in archaeology is to welcome students from almost any discipline. What we find is that many students from disciplines as widely varied as political science through to nuclear science are interested in archaeology, develop an interest in archaeology. So yes, the answer is yes. It will require a good degree of reading to get yourself up to speed in the first year. So you will be under slightly more pressure, workload pressure, but it's possible to do it without any problem. I mean, something to mention about archaeology really is it's such a broad subject. If you think about it, we use carbon-14 dating, nuclears, nuclear science, isotopic dating, DNA, and it goes all the way through to anthropology, human anthropology, and cultural studies. So almost everything can be applied to archaeology in one way or another, including politics to some degree, because understanding the development of early societies and their political structure is a very big aspect of archaeology. So the answer to your question is yes, we'd be very much welcome you, but you might find if you haven't done the reading already, you might find that you'd be under a little bit more pressure to read and broaden your knowledge at the beginning of the program.
Thank you, Professor. The next question. Do you have information on average earning after completing the bachelor's in archaeology?
I don't, I'm afraid. We don't keep such information. Well, obviously it depends also very much on which part of the world you're talking about. I did give the average earnings in the moment in the UK. The average salary is about £38,000. according to that was last year, 2021, according to the Office for National Statistics. So that's the average earning in the UK. One would expect a graduate student from Durham University to be earning more than average, though it depends a little bit. At the beginning of the career, it might not be. So we know I don't keep that information, and I'm afraid so I can't really honestly help you with that.
Thank you, Professor. The next question: what careers I can choose after completing forensic archaeology and anthropology masters?
Good question. So I tried to say a little bit, and I would welcome advise you to have a look at the website where this is set out a little bit more detail. But part of the reason behind the formation of this new MSc is that there is a demand for forensic archaeologists around the world. I said a little bit about its natural disasters, but also working with the police in many parts of the world, including the UK. So we've actually taken cohorts of police detectives onto the program and taught them, given them special teaching. So there's a good career structure working with the police and with the Justice Department, if you like. That's the forensic side of it. There is also an academic career. It's a growth area in universities around the world as well, where training is needed. And there's also the paleopathological side of things, where a laboratory, for example, the laboratory skills that you'll gain would set you up for a career as a support researcher, for example, in a university environment or a forensics environment, doing the laboratory work, supporting those skills. So we haven't started the program yet. It starts next year, and we're currently recruiting for it. So I can't give you, we don't have that information to give you. But I have to say, we did design the program very much as a vocational program with a specific career in mind. So we expect it to recruit, to lead directly into careers in related fields.
Thank you, Professor. The next question: do you accept students with a gap of 5 years?
Yes, well, I presume you mean from undergraduate degree. Yes, we do. If that student had studied already at a UK or an English language university, they would no longer be able to use that English language qualification. They would have to take another IELTS test because that qualification only lasts for 2 years. But yes, we do. With that, there's no time limit. And in fact, I should also say that in some cases, we can accept professional experience. So if you're in an unusual situation and say you don't have undergraduate qualifications, but you have a strong track record in professional experience, you should contact us nonetheless, because we may be able to look at that and to give you some credit for the professional experience that you have.
Thank you, Professor. The next question: what is the deadline for the September 2022 application and visa?
Yeah, good question. I mean, there is no formal deadline. The deadline really is that it's likely to take some time for your application to be processed. So let's say 2-3 weeks, maybe a month through to offer. Then if it's a clear run and if everything's in order, then it's quicker than that. But if there's a requirement to check language and so forth, then it may take so give it, say, a month. And then once your visa letters are all and the going through the Home Office, which we have no control over, no one seems to have control over home in ministries of the interior in any country around the world. They're a law unto themselves. The issue is getting the visa ready and sorted, and then getting your travel organized. I would advise you to have applied by June at the very latest, ideally in the next 2 months at the latest, to be sure of being here in early October.
Thank you. The next question: hi, if I apply for September or Jan intake, how long it will take the university to reply?
So if you're talking about a taught postgraduate program, a master's or an MSc, there is no January start date. So that may be confusion. If it's a PhD or an MPhil or an MA by research, so a research degree, then you can start either in October or in January or in April. So it's much more flexible. With a taught program, there's only one start date for most programs, and that is October, the beginning of October. How long will it take the university to reply? In theory, if you make an application, a formal application, they should get back to you within 2 weeks, almost immediately, to acknowledge your acceptance of your application, and then to give you a final unconditional scholarship. It depends. Maybe Savi has better information on that, but I would say In a normal situation, if there are no problems, it would normally be within a month, I would hope, maybe 6 weeks maximum. Xavi, do you have anything to add to that? Perhaps you have better data than I do on that one.
Okay. So our applications open a year in advance. So ideally, if you're looking for September 2023, the applications would open by the 15th of October. We process applications on first come, first serve basis. It's on rotational basis. So the sooner you put in an application, the much better your chances are, and these, lower the turnaround time is going to be. Currently, we're in April, and if you're looking for September 2022, our current turnaround time is between 8 to 10 weeks. So in case if you want to avoid, waiting for that longer period, it's better to put in a timely application. So I would recommend putting your application by maximum, mid of February. At around that time, our turnaround time is 4 to 6 weeks.
So can we say though that is that to issue of the CAS letter? That 8 weeks is to issuing of the CAS letter.
No, that's for the offer letter process.
Okay, that's the offer letter. Yeah. Okay, so I'm mistaken when I said 4 weeks. I know that we try to turn most applications around quicker than that, right? So there's a chance. So there is still, if students wanting to start with studying with us in October, it's still worth applying. It's going to be tight, but there's still a chance that they'll have their offers and visas in place to come here in October, right?
Of course, definitely. So the applications are still open. And, for social sciences faculty, for arts and humanities faculty, the turnaround time is comparatively lesser. So it's going to be between 4 to 6 weeks, but there's well enough time for you to even apply for the 2022 intake as well.
Right.
Thank you. The next question. Hi, I have completed my forensic science bachelor's back in 2016, along with 3 years of experience and 2 years gap, like no job and nothing. Can I apply for master's in archaeology for forensic science? Will I be eligible after having 2 years of gap? If yes, what course will be better for me? Like forensic science or archaeology?
So the 2-year gap is not a problem. The grade of the undergraduate degree is an issue. We mentioned it needs to be between 60 and 70%, depending on the university. So that just to take the university into consideration. So you can apply and you will be eligible if your mark is good enough. Which program is best for you is impossible for me to say without really knowing more about exactly what you want to achieve. It sounds like, I think I heard that you'd done science. I couldn't quite gather, Deepika, what the first sentence.
Forensic science bachelor's.
Okay. Yeah. So I mean, I would have thought that you would be eligible for any of the programs that we teach. And the choice of which program really depends upon where you want to go with your career. So I would advise you to look carefully at the 7 programs that we offer. And I would advise you to look carefully at the employment opportunities that are likely to come from them and decide which one suits you. If you want further information and you want further insight, then I would just encourage you to email the director of the program, the relevant program. I sent the email addresses out in chat just a little bit earlier. And as I said, the program directors would be delighted to answer questions from you, specific questions. But to answer that question, I would need to know a little bit more about what you want to achieve.
Thank you. The next question. Is there any possibility or way out to get IELTS waiver for masters?
IELTS what, sorry?
Waiver. Like she wants to waive off IELTS.
So Savi, do you want to take that? Do you want to take that one? Because I know that
Okay. So we do not provide English language waivers for master's students. So like I mentioned, with the 26th most international university in the world, we have staff and students coming from 150 different countries. In order to ensure that everybody and anybody who's coming into the university is able to cope up and communicate well, the IELTS is mandatory. And it's also the requirement for the High Commission. So we do not waive off the English language requirements for postgrad students. For most of the archaeology programs, we'll be looking at an IELTS score of either 6.5 or 7 overall, with not less than 6 in each subbands.
Savi, can I just check? Because I mean, there may be slight differences in opinion. There's often very complicated. My understanding is that if a student has completed a BA or BSc in an English language university in the last 2 years, they don't need IELTS. Is that correct?
Okay, so Derek, as per the current entry requirements for the university, if they've completed the bachelor's from an English-speaking country, then we can waive off the English language requirements.
Yeah.
But if it's not from a native English speaking country, in
Yeah.
that case, they will have to necessarily give the IELTS test.
Yeah, that's right. Okay, so we're in agreement. So if they've already completed a degree in the United States, in the UK, in Australia, whatever, in the last 2 years, then they won't require an IELTS test.
That's correct.
But,
yes.
I think the English language test that we put up online during COVID has been taken down now. Is that right? We finished that.
No, so password test, which is a Durham specific English proficiency test, it's also available for students.
It's still available,
in case if
right?
They want to, yes, in case if they want to go ahead with that. But that test is only acceptable by Durham. So in case if Durham is their first preference, they can choose to take the password test and apply directly.
I'm going to, while we're talking, I'm going to find the link to that test.
I have it available, Derek. I'll just put it
could you send it out? Because I think that, so the answer to that question is, it's not only IELTS, we accept TOEFL and other similar courses. They're listed on the website, and I think Savvy is going to send that up. But we do have our own English language test, online English language test, which was instituted during COVID because of the difficulties that students were finding in getting IELTS tests. So you can also take that, which I think is a bit quicker and a bit simpler, isn't it, Savvy, to organize if you're a long way from an IELTS test center. So I would recommend you look at that one. Savvy's going to send that information around now.
Thank you. The next question. Hi, if I've received conditional offer from the university, what will be the time frame university provide to submit the IELTS score?
So the condition is on IELTS. It's an English language requirement, I presume, from what you've said.
Yeah.
The time frame. Well, what's the story? Once the conditional offer has been issued, probably it's a little bit quicker, isn't it, Savvy? That once the final requirements are provided, presumably you can expect within 3 weeks or so to have a formal offer.
Yes.
Would you?
So normally after the conditional offer letter is issued, it's usually within a month that you have to submit back all the pending documents. But usually in cases like these, we would recommend the students that even if they put in an application without their IELTS score, it's best to apply for their IELTS score or their English language scores and submit them at the earliest, because the later they send it back to us, then again, we have to go through the entire processing of, reevaluating the entire application. So best such is that the sooner they provide the IELTS score, the sooner we can come back to them with the final decision. And they have quite a bit of time to be able to process their CAS letters and their visa applications.
Perfect.
Thank you. The next question. How we can apply for scholarships, or it is automatically considered?
Derek, do you want me to take that one?
Well, yeah, go. I mean, I can answer. I think go ahead. I think you've already dealt with, so please go ahead.
Perfect. So all scholarships offered by Durham University are automatic scholarships. What that basically means is no separate application is required. Once you apply with us, your application in itself is considered both for your offer and for your scholarships. Some of our scholarships are guaranteed scholarships, like the International Scholarship 2022 that I spoke about, which is amounting to £5,000. But then the other scholarships are meritorious scholarships. So based on the student's average performance, the kind of applications we've received for a particular cohort, we would select the top performers, and those scholarships would then go out to those students. But then again, to reiterate, no separate application is required. All Durham University specific scholarships are automatic scholarships. All scholarships outside of Durham University, the government scholarships, are something that the students would have to apply for on their own.
So that's right. Just to clarify then, the Chevening Scholarship and the Commonwealth Scholarship need to be applied for independently via those institutions. Whereas that's I think important. Thank you.
Thank you. The next question. What are the accommodation facilities available?
Well, there are colleges which offer accommodation, both catered and non-catered, and that's within the university. And so normally you'd be, as you apply to the university, you'd be allocated to a college, and that each college has some accommodation available that it can provide. And then, of course, on top of that, there's private accommodation available around the town. Costs, maybe, Savvy, you may have more up-to-date costs. I'd be thinking of about £100 a week.
Right.
Yeah.
So on an average, if I talk about the overall living expenses, you can expect to spend somewhere between £7,000 to £10,000 a year, which includes your fooding, your transportation, and your accommodation. Like Derek mentioned, we do, of course, have on-campus accommodation in form of 17 colleges, but we also do have a lot of off-campus accommodation options also available in and around Durham.
Thank you. The next question. I'm looking for MS in marketing in Durham University. I have second class degree from University of Mumbai and 9 years of experience in marketing.
Okay, Deepika, I'll take that one. So with
Yeah.
respect to the MSc marketing program, the student says they have a second class from University of Mumbai. I'm going to assume that's less than 60%. For us, the cutoff is at 60% minimum. So if the student does have about 60%, I'll be happy to, have a conversation with them. My email ID is already there. I've provided that in the chat box. They can write to me directly. I'll have a look at their profile. And if they meet the criteria, happy to speak to them. But in most cases, if it's a second class degree, second class honors, in that case, they will not meet the minimum entry requirements of the university.
Thank you, Savi. The next question. I wish to pursue my MA in archaeology. I really wish on working in the experiencing commercial archaeology. So, are there any job openings or commercial archaeology after I finish my degree? And also, just in case, in I change my mind. Is there any way that the master's student can continue to the university for the PhD? And are there any discounts for PhD students? So basically, she's asking about the commercial archaeology, like yeah, and also if she want to pursue further for the PhD, is there any discount if she continues from the same university?
Let me. I think I got that. Thank you, Deepika. I think so. With the commercial archaeology, there's a big commercial archaeological sector in the UK, and it employs. It's not particularly well salaried at the beginning level, but it does employ people regularly. There's a very strong turnover. So on completion of the degree, I would have expected there to be a good chance of the student getting employment in the commercial archaeology sector in the UK somewhere, right? Whether that would be a permanent job or a temporary job, I couldn't say, but there's a strong possibility of finding work. At Durham itself, we have our own commercial unit, and we do offer internships to students every year, and that student would be able to apply for those internships, and that answers, I think, that question. In terms of going on to the PhD, I don't believe that the alumnus discount actually counts towards PhDs. Do you know, Savi? I don't believe it does. The Durham alumni discount only applies to MAs, isn't it? Or does it apply?
It applies only to MA, yes,
Yeah,
not
okay.
to PhD.
So to go on to PhD scholarship, to PhD study, the thing to do would be during the course of your master's would be to talk to your supervisor, to design a program, and then to identify potential funding opportunities for a PhD studentship. Now, I have to say that there are rather more. It's a little bit easier. It's still very competitive, but it is a little bit easier to find funding for PhD scholarship than it is compared to for an MA or an MSc scholarship. There are rather more. Indeed, we have our own Durham doctoral scholarships. We have Northern Bridge, which are open to overseas students, and various other scholarships available within the university. So once here, my advice would be once here, the student should talk immediately to their supervisor and start to design an application to a scholarship fund.
Thank you so much, Professor Derek and Savi. We have covered all the questions from the chat box. Many thanks for answering all the questions so well and sharing your knowledge with us. We are now moving towards the end of this seminar. I would request if you have anything else you would like to put forward or would like to say any final words to the students who are watching us live right now.
No, we hope to hear from you, and we'd very much like to. Well, I think I'd just like to finish a little bit, if I can, Savi, first. Based on my experience in India, my feeling is, in terms of archaeology and heritage management in India, that India is a country, a part of the world, which is still globally really underrepresented in global thinking about heritage. It's a country with an amazing and really important heritage, and that needs to be brought more to the fore. And I would really like to see good students coming out of India and studying for archaeology and studying for heritage and museums, and able to enable them to push India forwards on the world stage. I think it deserves it. I think India is a country with an amazing heritage, which is not really appreciated around the world as much as it should be. So I would really be happy. I think we would all in Durham really be happy to see more applications from Indian students. So we look forward to hearing from you.
Thank you, Professor Derek. Thank you so much for your kind words. To all the audience, if you have any further question, please feel free to contact our SIUK offices. We will be more than happy to help you. And in the end, I would like to say, thank you to everyone for your valuable time today. We enjoyed this session very much. Have a great day. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Savi, as well, for correcting me on a number of points about application procedure as well. Thank you so much.
Derek, it was really very, very insightful and, very knowledgeable for me as well. Thank you so much, Deepika, again, for organizing the session. Thank you, SIUK. And thank you to all the students for joining in today. Have a lovely evening ahead.
Thanks to everybody for coming.